Hello, in this video I will talk about creating a UDP server and a client using Node.js as the server and Unity as the client. UDP is a communication protocol where the client can send messages to the server and the server can send messages to the client. The only thing is not all messages are guaranteed to be delivered. So UDP is a fast communication protocol, but it's unreliable. UDP is your choice when you care about speed more than reliability, like tracking a game object that moves every second. This case, UDP is your best choice. So next we'll create the Node.js server and the Unity UDP client, and we will send a message from Unity to the server and from the server back to Unity. If you don't have Node.js installed in your computer, I'll put a link in the description on how to download Node.js and install it on your computer.
Alright, so let's get started. So I have here two directories, one for the Node.js project and one for the Unity tutorial, which is going to be the client. I'm using Visual Studio Code. I recommend it to anyone because it have its own terminal, which makes everything easier. So let's start working on the server. So right now I'm here in the Node.js directory. I'm gonna start by creating a package.json to have my node modules. So I'm just gonna create a default one. I'm gonna type npm init and -y, and here I have the default package.json. Let's go just edit it. I think I need to use a lowercase letters, so I'm just gonna give it this name, and I'm gonna change this scripts from test to start node index.js. And let me just create index.js, which will be our server. And once we have it, we don't need the package JSON anymore. So for creating the Node.js UDP server, we only need a one module, which is dgram. So once we have the dgram, we can start working on our server. I'm just gonna import the dgram module. And then I'm gonna create the server. I like single quotation marks more. And once we have the server, we can listen to some events that are being triggered. First one, let's start with the error event. So once the server receives an error, this callback will be triggered. Error on the server. I'll log the error. And then I will close the server. The second event we can listen to is a message, or let's start with listening. So this is being triggered once the server starts listening to client messages. So I just want to log a simple message. I'm gonna log the address that we are listening from. So we'll do something like this: console.log server is listening on change this to address and the port address.port. And I have to bind the UDP server to a specific port. I'll use the port 5500, and let's do node index.js, and it's working. So it's printing out the message here. So the main thing that we're trying to do here, we are trying to get a message from the client and just send it back to the client. It's very basic. So I'm gonna type server on message, and once there is a message received from a client, this callback will be called. So here I think the message, and we get the sender info. And we just want to have a sanity check. Message received. And then we're going to send the message back to the client. So I'm going to say server.send. So what we're going to send? We're going to send the same message back. And to whom? I'm going to send the message to the sender info dot port and the sender info dot address. So the port and the address of the sender. And then a callback once we send the message. I want to just have a debug line here to inform us that the message have been sent. Message have been sent to sender info address, and then the port. Let's try to run. Yeah, and this is working fine. Let's create the client so we can see how the client and the server can communicate. And for the client, we will use Unity. So I'm gonna start with a fresh Unity project. We are trying to create a UDP client to communicate with the server that we just created. So I'll just create a simple C# script. I will name it UDP_client. I have to import some namespaces. So I'm gonna import system. I'm gonna import system.net. And for the UDP, I'm gonna import system.net.sockets. Also for sending and decoding and encoding messages, I'll use system.text. I'll just get rid of the update function. I usually like to get rid of those commands. And here I'll just declare a new function, UDP test. Alright, so we need to use the UDP client, which is this is from system.net.sockets, this namespace that we imported. And I'll give it a name, which is client. So this is the client. We already declared that and assigned it to a new UDP object. And then I'm just gonna have a new try and catch block, and I'm just gonna print a message if there is an exception thrown. And here at the start we need to connect to the server. So our server is running on our local host. So I'm just gonna put my local host address. And if you remember, the port that we specified is 5500. So I'm gonna keep it this. I'm just gonna double check. Yeah, it's 5500. And what we are going to send is let me just create a simple message. So here I'm creating a byte array. I'll just name it send bytes, and this will be, I'm gonna use the encoding .ascii, which we got it here from system.text, and then I'm gonna get the bytes array from a string. So it's gonna convert the string that I'm gonna type right now. Let's say hello from the client. So encoding.ascii, the byte is just gonna get the byte array, convert the string to a byte array, and then we will store it in the send bytes, which will be sending to the server. And then I will use client.send, and I'll send the send bytes, and also I have to specify the length. And then to receive them, I have to create an IP endpoint, which is the remote endpoint that I'm receiving from. And here I'm gonna specify IP address.any and 0. Then we have to receive the message from the server also. So I'm gonna just type receive bytes, because the server is just gonna take this message and send it back to us, right? So just gonna type in this gonna be the UDP, the client dot receive, and our reference that we are listening for is this remote endpoint, which is our local host in this case. And I'm gonna create a string received string equal encoding ASCII get string. So I'm gonna get the strings back from the received bytes that we have here, which is gonna be the same thing, hopefully, if everything works fine. Then I'm just gonna print the message back. So I have the thing. I'm just gonna drop it on the main camera. Exception thrown, connection refused. I don't think the server is up. Yeah, so let's make sure that the server is up. Let me just make it clear. Node index.js. Let's run again. Message received from the server. Just have to print out the message. Yeah. So the message received and the message is hello from the client. And if you go to the server, it's also message received and message has been sent to the port that we specified here.